Welcome back to Maths with Mrs. J. I'm going to start a series of videos about solving equations. I'm going to start right back at the beginning, about where you would start in year 7 or so at school. And I'm going to take it right through to the more complex equation solving that you would do towards the end of year 10. I do have a series of videos about expansion and factorisation that you may need to have a look at, if appropriate, during these videos. Because in order to be able to solve equations, you do need to be able to expand and gather like terms, and you also need to have a good handle on factorisation. All right, let's start at the beginning. If you're asked to solve an equation, what are you really being asked to do? Well, you're being asked to find the value that will make that work. So if we have our equation here, x plus 2 is 7, all right, x plus 2 is 7. The equal sign is a little bit like the pivot point of a balance scale or a seesaw at the park. Now, most of us, if we were given concrete materials, would be able to solve this quite simply. We would say, okay, well, clearly we're going to need to take away 2 green boxes from each side, and we'll be able to work out that x is 5. That basically is the principle of solving equations. It's keeping both sides balanced while trying to get the x or the unknown on its own. All right. Now, there are various ways of solving equations. One way that I like to start teaching it is to talking about how to build up the expression involving x, and then how do we go back the other way. Let me give you an example about what I'm talking about here. So here we've got an expression x plus 3. So you've got your x and you've gone to x plus 3. What have you done to the x to turn it into x plus 3? Well, you have added 3. And we know from our expression that x plus 3 is 9. All right, we have that equation given to us, x plus 3 equals 9, so our x plus 3 equals 9. Now, if we want to go back the other way, we need to do the opposite thing to adding 3. What's the opposite to adding 3? Well, it's taking 3 away. 9 minus 3 is 6. So we get the answer that x equals 6. We can do a little therefore sign. Let's try the next one. So we're starting with our x, and our expression that we're building up is x minus 5. Okay, what have I done to go from x to x minus 5? I've taken 5 away. Now, we know from our equation that x minus 5 equals 1, so we can put our 1 there. We've got to undo. We've got to go back to work out what x is. How do you undo subtracting 5? Well, the opposite of subtracting 5 is adding 5. So 1 plus 5 is 6. So this answer is also 6. You can check if you're right by substituting back into the original equation and saying, is 6 minus 5 equal to 1? Well, yes, it is. All right. For simple ones like this, you can usually do the check in your head. For more complex ones, usually it's a good idea to write it down. So what have we learnt so far? Well, we've learnt that addition and subtraction are inverse operations. They undo each other. So if you want to undo subtracting something, you've got to add it. If you want to undo adding a number, you've got to subtract that number. Let's have a look at these other 2 examples. So here, on our left-hand side of our equation, we've started with an x and it's been turned into a 2x. What does 2x mean? It means 2 times x. So we've multiplied by 2. And we know that that equals 6 from our equation. How do you undo multiplying by 2? Well, by doing the opposite thing, which is dividing by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, So we get our answer, x equals 3. All right, last one for this particular video. So we've started with an x. If you've got x over 3, what does that really mean? What have you done to the x? Well, you've divided it by 3. And we know that that equals 4. So to go back the other way, we need to do the opposite thing to dividing by 3. Well, that will be multiplying by 3. 4 times 3 is 12, so x is 12. Let's just check that. Is 12 divided by 3 4? Yes. Is 2 times 3 6? Yes. Is 6 minus 5 1? Yes. And is 6 plus 3 9? Yes. That's one of the great things about solving equations. You can know if you're correct or not by going back and doing the check.